Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I would like to welcome everyone to this hearing submissions meeting relating to the proposed 2024-25 annual budget. I declare the meeting open at 6:34 p.m. Okay, we acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of the Kulin Nation. We offer our respect to the elders of the traditional lands and through them to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people past and present. For the mobile phone, I kindly remind everyone to switch phone off or turn to silent. A recording of the meeting proceeding. I advise the gallery that this meeting is being recorded and will be available on Council's website. All care is taken to maintain your privacy. However, please note that your submission to Council is being recorded. An apology, Council. Are there any apology for tonight's meeting?
Yes, we have Councillor
Sarah,
Carter
yeah.
and Councillor Tran.
Yep, thank you. I know that Councillor Michael Clark will running a few minutes late. He's on his way. Conflict of interest. Do any councillor have a conflict of interest in relation to any of these budget submissions this evening? No, thank you. The business to be transacted is, I advise that the only business to be transacted at this meeting is to hear submission in relation to the proposing 2024-2025 annual budget from members of the community who have requested to be heard. I advise that Councillor will not be making any decision tonight, nor will they be providing any indication as to how submission may be decided on. Agenda item 4.1, hearing of submitters, proposing 2024-2025 budget and submission 3 years. There are 11 submitters who have requested to be heard. The order of speaker is based on the order of written submissions that we're receiving by Council. Speakers have a maximum of 3 minutes each to speak to supporting of their submission. I would like to invite Mrs. Ann Trung to be heard in support of their written submission. Mrs. Ann Trung here? No, she's not here. I invited Roxio Rutter to be heard in supporting of their written submission. No. I invite Chris Wilhowe to be heard in support of their written submission.
Thank you, councillors, and everybody who's here today. We're here to request that the ceiling and lighting of Greenwood Lane, which runs parallel with Cowper Street, the community has been seeking the ceiling of this laneway on for over a number of years. The reasoning being Greenwood Lane did not exist up until 2016. It was a submission that had to be made to the State Planning Minister to get the laneway to be named. The reasoning for the lane to be named was based on a lady who was tenanted at Unit 2113 Cowper Street, whose son had acquired epilepsy through a brain injury with a tumour. Every time the lady called ambulance services, emergency services, the emergency services would actually knock on my door or shine the light in my property asking if I'd called emergency services. The property was unable to be located by emergency services. It took probably about 4 years of petitioning council and then resorting to the State Planning Minister to request the lane to be named. At first I was advised the lane couldn't be named because it wasn't wide enough. When I asked what the width of a lane was to be before it could be named, I was advised it was 2.9 metres. Well, Greenwood Lane is actually 3.1 metres. It's unfortunate that emergency services and the State Planning Minister had to be involved in this matter. The reason that Greenwood Lane is where it is because 113 Cowper Street was developed as a multi-unit development site. As part of that original town planning permit, it was a requirement that all access roads were to be sealed. while Greenwood Lane wasn't called out as an access road, it is the only access point to the property of 113 Cowper Street. There is no other access point from Cowper Street to that property at the rear or to the front of 113 Cowper Street. That fulfilment remains unfulfilled. The lane is unsafe, unlit. Upon going to the State Planning Minister, the community banded together to have the lane sealed. We offered cost contribution. Unfortunately, there is no council policy that would give guidance as to proportionate cost. So a blanket email went out for a cost contribution of $45,000 without anyone knowing what percentage that a ratepayer should have to contribute to that $45,000, considering that there is a factory that abuts 50% of the laneway. The council to date, from 2016, has still not been able to quantify whether that factory would pay for 50% of the laneway or whether it should be divided equally between the 8 properties that abut the laneway. The interest in sealing the lane continues to be of interest to the community because it's a safety issue. It is unsafe, it is unlit. There are continual dumping of syringes in the laneway. There's been waste that's continued to be dumped in there. It's not a safe place for people to walk. I've had people try and break into my property with a couple of American pit bulls from either end. There is currently a alternative accommodation being built at, I think it is 123 Cowper Street, which is a nine-room student housing. Moving forward, when that becomes tenanted, Greenwood Lane does back onto that 123 Cowper Street. That is going to be just a continual location for where people will continue to have issues with safety and security as they walk up to the laneway. It is purely a safety issue. I wouldn't encourage anybody to be walking up there at night. It's not a safe space. If you were female or a young child and that is your place to get to your residence, it would be an issue.
I can get 3 minutes up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I would hope the council would take and honour this and see if we can move forward with this. It'd be appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is Mrs. Andrew and Marcia Rutters here yet? No? Thank you. I invite Robert Asquith to be heard in some support of their written submission. No? No, I know. She's busy. I invite Rick Randall to be heard in supporting of their written submission.
Thank you for this opportunity, and I'd also like to personally acknowledge that this is sorry day. I'm asking for the $320,000 allocated for further design work and business case development for the Mackay Master Plan project be reviewed and allocations made for works other than the indoor courts to be funded. Those works should reflect the non-sports related activities identified in the master plan consultation, whilst funding is in doubt. Speaking of funding and momentum, lobbying, how do projects get funded? Well, lobbying will only get you so far. In terms of attracting state and Commonwealth funding, it also can end up in courts, investigations and crime commissions. Having access to friendly ministers and dazzling them with a nice photo and a nice cost-benefit estimate might work on occasion, but it also smacks of cronyism. You need a strong case built on rock-solid needs analysis, an appropriate governance and management model, a commitment to ongoing and operating and maintenance funding, and a clear commitment from the local government itself in terms of what, at least in principle, its own capital funding will be. The Commonwealth in particular, in its current and pending programs, also requires evidence of this and state government commitment. Indoor courts are hardly an unknown item in terms of design. Spending more money on designs, renders and the like is unlikely to progress the case at state and Commonwealth government if the Council's own commitments are not made clear. What will make the case shovel-ready is a firm capital commitment from the government, the case and community support. That's what builds momentum. And in regards to local support, I'm sure we've rarely seen a more divisive issue than Mackay in the last few years. It's almost certain as well that if funding is secured, that the project will still need to go to tender and a design team appointed who may not, and in my experience most likely won't be, what the original concept design is. So doing more designs now is just a waste. An old boss of mine, a wily old public servant in South Australia, once said, "The numbers will always nut you." He's been proved right time and time again, and the numbers in this project are hurting it. Here's one. In the budget, I asked a question on the 23rd of April about an $800,000 figure that was marked down as being for schematic design and business plan strategy. The answer that was given was that no, sorry, that's a 23-24 budget number. It's not. It's 24-25. It's Appendix A. So there's a discrepancy between what's in the budget and what's in Appendix A under the gender equity statement. What other numbers are hurting the project? The 2018 study relied on 2016 AVS numbers and selected 2017 and 18 utilisation statistics. It's now well out of date, contains gaps and inconsistencies, and the actual reported data did not support the views put forward. So I know my 3 minutes is up. So
Thank you.
quick summary, don't do any more drawings. Do at least something now that addresses the non-sports needs. Do a new needs analysis that doesn't start with a preferred solution. Consider regional options and regional partnerships, not just Maribyrnong. Do a proper business case to the level required and be transparent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Randall. Okay, I just take the opportunity to welcome Deputy Mayor, my Councillor Michael Platt.
My
All right.
apologies, Mayor, councillors. I had a sick wife to attend to. I do beg your pardon.
Understand. Okay, now we still haven't have Mrs. Andrew and Rochelle here yet, so I would like to invite Megan Rochelle from Maribyrnong Swift Football Club to be heard in supporting of their written submission. No.
Oh, St. Louis. St. Louis.
Who's-
St. Louis.
No. I only have that.
Right, maybe you could ask St. Louis. Could you call that out?
Jack Lewis.
Zach Lewis. I don't know if he's here.
Okay. No, I don't think.
Is Zach Lewis here?
Mr. Jack Lewis here?
No.
Zach.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now I would like to invite Mrs. Sari Libby to be heard in supporting of their written submission. Sari here? No. Now I would like to invite Congiatas from Yarraville Closey Football Club to be heard in supporting of their written submission.
Good evening, Mayor and councillors. My name's Congiatis. I'm the Council Liaison Officer for Yarraville Glory Football Club, also known as the Yarraville Soccer Club. It's my third year doing that role, but I've been involved with the club since I was a youngster, which was a very long time ago. I just want to present a Mackay Reserve Surface Improvement Plan proposal. So background is, whilst there have been recent investments at Yarraville Glory, the major limiting factor to enabling the club to grow is access to quality turf surfaces. The surface on the fields of Mackay should be prioritised to ensure that participation continues to grow beyond the traditional male domination of the sport. The Yarraville Glory Club are now at a point where players will need to be turned away due to lack of access to grounds. This will only grow as the Bradwell site is developed, and council needs to act now before there is a generation of children that don't have access to sport, not because of financial situations nor supportive home environments, rather due to Maribyrnong grounds are either full or not to standard. So what is required? Irrigation, drainage and re-turfing of Mackay Reserve to same standard as Anglers to be prioritised in the 2024-25 budget. Why is it required? 3 key points. Majority of grass surface at Mackay is in very poor condition, especially during the summer and pre-season period. The worst area is the southwest corner, as a dust bowl in summer, bordering on unsafe for use, and can become a swamp in winter with successive rainy days and become unusable. Second key point, Yarraville Glory has expanded greatly in participation numbers from about over 300 in 2023 to over 400 this year. Majority being young children and especially girls. The main soccer pitch at Mackay, which has good irrigation, drainage and turf, is insufficient for current and growing needs of the club and is already at full utilisation. Note, the above numbers don't include participation for neighbouring Yarraville Football Club and cricket clubs that also use McIver. Third key point, as the adjacent housing development of Bradmill progresses over the next years, we expect to see over 500 numbers in participation. So the improvement of the playing surface on McIver is critical to being able to accommodate the additional participants expected. It must be planned for now and not wait for the McIver master plan implementation. So in summary, we're requesting sufficient funds to be allocated to the City of Maribyrnong 2024-25 budget to allow for A, design of new irrigation and drainage system, design and costing of a new irrigation and drainage system for the whole of McIver Reserve, but implementation of irrigation, drainage and returfing only in the southwest corner as a first stage. Thank you for the opportunity to present today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Giadas. Okay, now I would like to invite Mr. Nguyễn Quang Duy, the President of the VCA Vic, to be heard in supporting of their written submission.
I would like to first acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Kulin Nation, and pay respects to the elders past, present and emerging. Good evening, Mayor and Councillors. My name is V Nguyen. I'm talking on behalf of Quang Duy. I'm the Vice President of Internal Affairs of VCA Vic. I also am a current resident of Footscray, living behind VU, 5 minutes walk from Footscray Park. As you know, this year the Vietnamese community has held a Tet festival at Footscray Park on the 17th and 18th of February, and it was seen to be a huge success. And the budget was approximately 250,000. We hope to continue the success next year. For that, on the 15th and 16th of February, we plan to make next year even bigger and better. Next year will be a big significance for the Vietnamese community, as it marks 50 years of Vietnamese refugee settlement in Australia. Some of the main objectives of our Tet next year is to honour our past and celebrate our present and future, to commemorate and pay respects to our fallen Australian and Vietnamese war veterans, as well as the Vietnamese refugees who have lost their lives fleeing from Vietnam. We would also like to thank Australia, and especially the City of Maribyrnong and its people, for welcoming us to their city and helping us resettle. And also to revitalise the business environment of Footscray Business District. As 2025 marks 50 years of Vietnamese refugee settlement, it would be a very costly event as we plan to make it bigger. We estimate this to be $320,000. An estimate of $60,000 would be related to marquees, equipment, infrastructure, and 2 nights of fireworks to celebrate 50 years of the Vietnamese refugee settlement in Australia. We plan to also have parades, many cultural performances, recognition of success in the community, and an exhibition tent that will hold 50 years of our refugee history, from paintings, stories, artifacts, and we hope to display our rich culture, our hardships, and our success stories for all to see. We also have appointed Mr. Hai Pham as our event manager for this event. We are working very closely with him for a budget breakdown of next year's Tet event, and are due to submit to the council as soon as Mr. Hai is ready. To mark our 50-year anniversary of the Vietnamese refugee settlement, we hope to have a successful Tet next year, and we would like the Maribyrnong City Council to contribute to the maximum amount. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, V. Now, the next person, I would like to invite Mr. Mao Panel Gilbert from Friend of McIver Reserve to be heard in supporting of their written submission. They here? No. Now, I would like to invite Mrs. Helen Vanderbert from Maribyrnong River and Waterway Association to be heard of their written submission.
Just put the timer on.
You okay with the microphone, ma'am?
How's that? Is that okay?
Yep.
Good.
Thanks.
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to speak. I wish to pay my respects to the Kulin Nations and their country, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, particularly as it is Sorry Day. The Maribyrnong River and Waterways Association is a new association. We are demerging from the Yarra Riverkeeper Association on July the 1st this year. For the last 3 years, we've had funding from the Ross Trust, and that ceases on the 30th of June. We have attracted funding from Melbourne Water and DECA for projects, and we have 2 employees. And what we are finding is that when we go for grants, projects are funded, but there's no thought of how do we keep our organisation running. The reason we formed was that our volunteers and all our environment groups throughout the 6 council areas where the waterways and the river run, we are all flat out doing on-ground works. But what is needed? You look at the plethora of government policies at a state level that say the blue-green infrastructure for the waterways of the West must improve, the health of the river and the creeks must improve, biodiversity should improve. Where's the funding for it? Now, by engaging persistently with the bureaucracy and with the politicians, we intend to see that funding is delivered so that the community gets the benefits that we should get from this contact with nature as we enjoy in our local places our part of the river. So what we are asking all 6 councils to do is contribute to our ongoing survival as an organisation. I'll volunteer till the day I drop, but that's not the point. We need professional lobbyists. We don't have the time as volunteers to go and do the research and to do the lobbying. So we need a professional group. At the moment, we have 2 part-time employees, Dr. Nicole Kowalczyk, who's an ecologist, and Dr. Angela Clark, who's engaged for community engagement and communication. So what we're saying to you is, please give us what you can. The more you can give us, the better it is. And this is the start of a conversation with you. We thank you for this opportunity, and we'd like to continue to discuss with you where we've got common interests, how our work can support your people and your section of the river, because it's in desperate need of help. We all know the legacy of pollution. We know the legacy of neglect. We're going to turn that around by being a strong voice for our river, every drop of tributary and all the communities along it. So please support us. We're approaching all 6 councils and we need you. And I think you might need us because we're developing real expertise in the areas of policy and making suggestions about what can be done on the ground to improve the outcomes for our waterways. And we are collaborating with traditional custodians. Thank you very much for your time. Watch the film on our website.
Thank you, Mrs. Vanderbilt. Now, I haven't seen any other new one come in, so... Could I talk to Mrs. Andrew, Roxio Rutter, Robert Esquith, Jack Lewis, no?
Megan Russell.
Megan Russell? No, Sherry? No, Sherry, we're not going to lie by and see, not here. Mal, Panel Gilbert. That's so. Well, that is concluded the submission for this evening. I thank you all, the submitters, who have taken the time to provide written submissions and verbal presentation. I note that this submission will form part of consideration to the proposing 2024-2025 annual budget and subsequent 3 years to be presenting at the future council meeting. Now, if there are more, I will thank so much again for any attendee here today, and that's concluding I declare the meeting closed at 6:58. Thank you very much, everyone.